for Hare Krishna. So we are in our journey for 18th chapter. Like we know, 18th chapter is the biggest one. It has 78 verses. And we covered so far from verse 1 to 55. Now, the whole chapter started with Arjuna's question, right? On sannyasa and tyag, right? And how Krishna, we learn in that section where Krishna highlights that, it should not be karma sannyas, right? It should be karma phala sannyas, right? Karma sannyas it's not about renouncing work. It's about renouncing the fruits of work, right? And then, how we learned, Krishna then, talks about the, how can we renunciate, right? How can we have that built in us? So Krishna talks about, that we are not the only doer. There are 5 factors of action. He talks about that. And how each of these 5 factors play a role, for something to happen. And then after that, we learned about, the 3 overall, how modes impact, right? Modes are impacting everything in this material. And we learned how renunciation itself, can be done in 3 different modes: mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance. And, in the following session, we learned how modes, not only it's about renunciation, but also about, our knowledge, the doer, the work, everything is influenced by modes, and how each of these can be done in mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance, right? And also happiness, right? Happiness also, it is in the mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance. So everything, right? And last class we learned how about the varnashrama, right? So varnashrama, how Krishna in 4th chapter itself, he highlighted that there are 4 varnashrama, and 4 ashramas. And how beautifully Krishna, explains that, whichever varna we are in, ashrama we are in, we have to just carry out performing our prescribed duties, and offering the results to Krishna. And then how, we gradually get purified by doing that, and how by doing that, we learned about that slide where there is good part of our work and the bad part, right? And how the bad part, it slowly gets vanquished, by offering the results. Yeah. So, and eventually what happens is, the good part component increases and the bad part vanishes away. And that results in developing spiritual knowledge, right? And overall, just, that section we learned how by performing our prescribed duties, we can get purified. And once you have purified, you reach, Brahman platform, right? And how we learned that importance of, we also learned in the prior section about importance of sticking to one's duty. The varna and the ashrama, we have to stick to our own duty. We should not imitate others. Then it will set the way. And Krishna says that even though you have to perform your own work, even though it's imperfect, rather than imitating others, right? So with that, then we come to the perfect stage where it is called as the by purification, the Brahman platform. And we learned how from Nishkam Karma Yoga we get purified, we reach Brahman platform, and from Brahman platform we reach to pure bhakti, and through pure bhakti we will attain Krishna. So overall, we learned that 50. Now we are stepping into 56 and 66 and 67 to 78, 2 sections, which are the final sections. And, the next section, which we are going to cover today, it talks about pure bhakti, the essence of pure bhakti. And then the conclusion, what Arjuna says after hearing the whole Gita, and what Krishna concludes. So we'll learn that and what Sanjaya concludes. So we'll learn that in the last section between verse 67 to 70. Okay. So with that, we will start today's section. This section covers about pure bhakti, right? So we learned about Brahman platform and how once we reach the Brahman platform, the next stage is we reach pure bhakti. And that is what this section is going to talk about. Yeah? Now, to divide this, so 56 and 57 verse talks through as how to do bhakti. Okay. And then followed by 58 to 60 verse, it talks about benefit of doing bhakti and what are the dangers of not doing bhakti. If someone does not do it, what will we land up with? Right? And then 61 to 62, we see how, Krishna talks about super soul. Yeah, the guidance we get from super soul. So raising our bar or platform from Brahman platform to be reached then to Paramatma. Okay. And then the last verse of the 63rd verse, yeah. In the end, Krishna says, we'll see that to Arjuna that, I have told you everything. I have given you all the most confidential knowledge. Now Krishna says to Arjuna, then now you do what you wish to do. So he leaves that to Arjuna. Okay. So that's the, overall gist of how the flow would go. Yeah. So we'll start with the first verse. That is, activities in bhakti leads to Krishna abode. Yeah. So maybe Viswa Prabhuji, can you read this?
Yes, Mataji, sure. Activities in bhakti leads to Krishna abode. Sarva karmani api sada kurbano mat vyapish sraya mat prasadat abhapnoti saswatam padam abhyayam. Though engaged in all kinds of activities, my pure devotee, under my protections, reaches the eternal, imperishable abode my grace, by my grace. Bhagavad Gita 18.56. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you. So see, now Krishna is talking about pure bhakti. He has started talking about pure bhakti. A bhakt is always engaged in, we learned this before, right? They are engaged in all kind of activities. That's what Krishna is saying. Though engaged in all kind of activities. But, the thought engaged in all activities is that the bhakta always constantly remembers Krishna. So Krishna is stating here that such devotee is always in protection of Krishna. He's always protected by Krishna. And Krishna promises that all kind of activities we do, if we keep Krishna in center, if we keep doing activities, if we for Krishna's pleasure, yeah, remembering Krishna all the time and being conscious of Krishna, then Krishna promises that such devotee, such devotee reaches back to his abode, right? And how is that abode? It's eternal and imperishable, right? So Krishna again says, again describes about his abode, supreme abode, right? He's saying the characteristics and who reaches there, the devotee, and how is the devotee, even though they are engaged in all kind of activities, they are completely absorbed in Krishna, while doing those, right? So followed by this, yeah. So the next verse, actually, Krishna states, continuing from the prior verse, that if such is the result of being in Krishna consciousness, that going back to the eternal abode, yeah, if such is the state, result of Krishna consciousness getting eternal, then why not, work in Krishna consciousness? What is the harm? Let's, so work in Krishna consciousness. Krishna is saying, it is giving you the ultimate goal, right? So why not work it? So just work for Krishna consciousness. That's what Krishna is saying. So, so this verse, I'm sorry, I have the mobile camera. I need keep moving because I can see my screen. So 57th verse talks about, how should be a mood of a devotee. Yeah, the mood of a devotee. How is devotee's mood? Devotee is completely dependent on Krishna. Completely, in all activities, just depend on me. Krishna is saying, work always under my protection. In such devotional service, be fully conscious of me. This is the translation of the verse. Yeah. So that determines what should be the mood of a devotee, fully dependent on all the activities. Then they will be always in protection of Krishna. So Krishna is asking us to clearly here to take up Krishna consciousness and always be in the mood of dependence on Krishna, right? That is the key. So, and dependence of Krishna means surrender, right? Surrender to Krishna. And he spoke about, surrender again, in the prior chapters. But, we have to understand that how beautifully he is saying that, just work in Krishna conscious, and then he will protect us. This is the gist kind of all instructions. It is like, it's a gist of everything what we have learned, that just surrender to Krishna, just depend on Krishna, and he will take care of the rest. And that's why we learned the example before as well, right? Do our best and leave the rest to Krishna, right? So, and somebody may ask that, but we don't have Krishna in today's world, in this material world. So Prabhupada states in the purport that in material world, Krishna is represented by spiritual master. And if we follow the instructions of spiritual master, then that is equal to following the instructions of Krishna. And then we'll be able to go back to God. Yeah, because a spiritual master will never, have something not in line with our scriptures or the instructions of Krishna. Right? So, so Krishna is highlighting here that we need to develop that kind of dependence mood, on Krishna. So, and further, like I said, the next verses talk about, what are the results if you work in Krishna consciousness, and what are the results if you don't work in Krishna consciousness. So 80.58, it says that results of working in Krishna consciousness. What will happen? Krishna is saying, if you become conscious of me, you will pass over all the obstacles of conditioned life by my grace. Okay. And what is he saying in the next verse? Results of not working in Krishna consciousness. If, however, you do not work in such consciousness, but act through false ego, not hearing me, you will be lost. Right? So 58th verse, so by Krishna's grace and mercy, we'll be able to pass all the obstacles. See, we face so many obstacles in our day-to-day life. If we really, think, but for a devotee, it's not that we have to understand challenges will not be there. No, you take any examples, Pandavas, Prahlad Maharaj, Dhruva, the devotees also face a lot of challenges. Challenges will be there, but he will not be very affected by those challenges, and will be easily able to cross the ocean, the material ocean. And it is mentioned in Bhagavatam very beautifully that for a devotee, the huge material ocean, it actually becomes like, a water in a calf's hoof print. So small, So it is very easy for a devotee to cross that, because Krishna's mercy and grace, he makes that huge endeavor into a small. So challenges will be there, but they are not very effective because they are dependent on Krishna. They understand if something is not happening, there's a reason. Krishna has a better plan for it. Yeah. And then Krishna says, if one does not work in Krishna consciousness, then Krishna is saying he will be lost. Due to what? Due to his false ego. And what is that false ego? Misidentification of self, that we are this body and not soul. That's where the whole thing starts, right? The first lesson Krishna gives in Bhagavad Gita 2.30, Dehino Asmin Yata Dehe. So the first instruction itself is that we are not this body, we are soul. And because most of the time we misinterpret ourselves, misidentify ourselves to be body, we undergo all this, that false ego, which makes us understand that, right? So that's the bottom line of that false ego. And if we have that, Krishna says you are going to get lost. You will undergo the same birth and that cycle, again and again, never ending, right? And then in 59th and 60th verse, he says, one works as per his nature anyway, out of false identity, which is ahankar, false ego, and illusion, which is moha. If you think of not fighting, such resolve is only misdirection. You will fight anyways, even against your own will, abashaha, as you are bound by actions arising from your kshatriya nature, and the modes, O Arjuna. So what is Krishna saying to say? That if you do not act according to, see, in the whole Gita was spoken because Arjuna wanted to run away. He didn't want to fight, right? So what Krishna is saying is that if Arjuna, Krishna is asking him not to run away and perform his, just fight. So what Krishna is saying, if Arjuna does not act according to Krishna's direction and do not fight, then that is like Arjuna's nature, by his nature itself, he's a Kshatriya. He's engaged in the warfare, right? So Krishna is saying that only out of, if he thinks of not fighting, it is misdirection, right? And rather, if he fights just following Krishna's orders, that will not cause any reactions to Arjuna. But if Arjuna runs away from the battle, or even fights as per his Kshatriya nature, it will still cause reactions. Running away will cause bad reactions. And he performing his Kshatriya duty, it will still cause reactions. But if he is performing the duty as per Krishna's orders, right, then it will not cause any reactions. 60th verse, he says, under illusion, Arjuna is declining, and he has to act according to Krishna's direction. So if he fights following Krishna's direction, then he will not be bound by reactions. That was Krishna said. So Krishna said, just follow my instructions, but not fighting and going to forest. Arjuna will be bound by the material reactions because it's not being done for Krishna, right? So with that, we will, we'll come to 61st, 62nd, and 63rd verse. And Hare Krishna Prabhuji, can you read this?
Yeah, yes, Mataji. Surrendering to the Supreme Soul. Bhagavad Gita 18.61. The Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart, O Arjuna, and is directing the wanderings of all living entities, who are seated as on a machine made of the material energy. Bhagavad Gita 18.62. O Sion of Bharata, surrender unto him utterly. By his grace, you will attain transcendental peace and the supreme and eternal abode. Bhagavad Gita 18.63. Thus I have explained to you knowledge still more confidential. Deliberate on this fully and then do what you wish to do. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you.
What?
So now, last session, we learned how Krishna spoke about Brahman platform, right? As we get purified, we get into the, and now he is going a level up high, right? So 3 aspects of absolute truth, right? Brahman platform, Paramatma, and Bhagwan, right? So now he's going a level up high, right? And these verses, he's speaking on Paramatma platform, super soul, yeah? See, we discussed before that the kind of body we get is based on 2 things, past karmas and desires, right? So we have to act according to the kind of body we get. And what Krishna is saying here is, O Arjuna, and is directing the wanderings of all living. Who is directing wanderings of all living entities? The super soul, who are seated as on a machine made up of material energy, right? So what is that machine made up of material energy? This body, right? And we will get different kind of bodies based on our past karmas and desires. And whatever kind of body we get, we have to act within the limitations of that body. If we get a body of a bird, we have to fly. And if we get a body of snake, we have to hiss. If we get a body of dog, we have to bark, right? Whatever kind of body we get based on our past karmas and desires, we have to, it's like a machine. We have to just work, according to. And Krishna is calling this body as a machine. It's just like we are sitting in a car, right? Inside a car. The car is a machine and the driver is the soul, right? So, and no matter what species we get into, super soul is always accompanying us. Krishna is so merciful that whether we are in the gutters as a pig or whether we are in dense forest, any form of body, he accompanies us, right? That's his level of mercy. And in 62nd verse, he's saying, O Sion of Bharata, surrender unto him utterly. Just surrender, he's saying again, right? By his grace, you will attain transcendental peace and the supreme eternal abode. Again, right? I think again and again, Krishna is repeating us. If we didn't understand a verse where he has mentioned about surrender before, here you go. He's repeating again, because he knows the level of intelligence we have in Kali Yuga, right? So Krishna asks Arjuna to know that Paramatma, and surrender to that Paramatma. And the result will be, he will achieve transcendental peace because he's so disturbed right now, right? So he'll get transcendental peace and will go back. That's what Krishna says. And then 63rd verse, right? It talks about, Brahman platform. See, we have to understand, Krishna is saying, I have explained to you knowledge still more confidential. So we have to understand there are 3 levels: confidential, more confidential, and most confidential. So confidential was Brahman platform. Now Krishna is saying, when he is explaining about Paramatma platform, he's saying, I'm telling you something more confidential, he stated. And later we'll see in today's session that he talks about pure bhakti. And he states that is the most confidential knowledge. So we are again going a level up high. And in the end, what is Krishna saying? He's telling Arjuna, I have explained you everything, and then do what you wish to do. He's asking Arjuna to contemplate on all the instructions what Krishna has given so far. think about it, contemplate, analyze my instructions. Krishna spoke about so many things, like different kinds of yoga, right? He spoke about Nishkam, Jnana, Karma, Bhakti. He has spoken about so many, he spoke about the material nature. He spoke about what our body is made up of, right? Everything. And now he's asking Arjuna, just think about all the instructions I've given, and, then you take a decision and do what you wish to. Now, what do we learn here? It's so beautiful here that we can learn that we also can get instructions from different avenues, like our spiritual masters, scriptures, Bhagavad Gita, Krishna, where he's giving us instructions. But ultimately, it's us who decide and make the final decision. Krishna always gives that free will, that minute independence to us, that we make the final decision, like he's giving to Arjuna, right? So he gives us that frame, that minute independence to make the final decision, whether we want to follow Krishna's instructions or we don't want. He's giving us that free will. So similarly, Krishna always gives us that free will. We have to know. When we ask, there are so many times that everybody says, why are, quite a lot of them, sorry, not everybody, but many people say that, why do we suffer? Because Krishna always gives us that minute independence to us. And when we use that independence, following Krishna's instructions, then we make spiritual progress in spiritual endeavor. But if we use that minute independence for material purpose, then it leads us to get more bondage into the same, because we are not keeping Krishna in center, and then we get bonded, and then that repeated birth and death cycle will go ever. So that minute independence which we are getting, we should use it the right way. That's the bottom line, So he has given all the instructions, and he's telling Arjuna, you decide what you do. Okay. Now let's see what happens further. Okay. Now we will step now into the verses which talks about the most confidential knowledge, which is pure bhakti. Yeah. But before that, just something from the purport. So Arjuna stood silently reviewing the very deep meaning of the Gita scripture. Yeah. Glancing at his dear friend Krishna's merciful heart melted like butter. And he spoke, "Oh, my dear friend Arjuna, I will now speak the essence of whole scripture in few verses. Forget the difficult in having to review everything to understand. Thus, following verses reveal the essence of Bhagavad Gita to be applied in everyone's." So when Krishna asked Arjuna to contemplate, and he saw Arjuna a bit, worried. Again, Krishna is so merciful, his heart melted like butter. Right? And he said that, let me just give you a kind of whole essence of Bhagavad Gita in just few verses. And these are those verses which we are going to step into. So Krishna started revealing, and he steps into most confidential knowledge. That is the essence of Bhagavad Gita, pure bhakti. Yeah. So this is the first verse, the most confidential knowledge. Kavya Mataji, can you read this?
Yes, Mataji. Most confidential knowledge. Sarva Guhyatamam Bhuyam Bhuya Shranu Me Paramam Vachaha Ishto Si Me Dradham Iti Drishtim Tato Vakshyami Te Hitam. Because you are my ever dear friend, very dear friend, I am speaking to you my supreme instruction, the most confidential knowledge of all. Hear this from me, for it is for your benefit. Bhagavad Gita 18.64. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. So Krishna is highlighting, because you're my most dear friend. Such an advantage to have Krishna on our side, right, as a friend. Look at Arjuna. He's in so much of trouble, but he has Krishna next to him, nothing to worry about. And fourth chapter also, Krishna mentions, right, the qualifications to get this most confidential knowledge. It was like Bhakto Sime Sakha Cheti. Krishna mentions you have to be my devotee and friend in Arjuna's case. So for us, it is like any relationship of those 5 relationships with Krishna, right? So then he will reveal the most confidential knowledge, right? So same thing Krishna is saying here, because you're my friend, my heart is melting like butter, and I'll help you, further, right? And now we step into the cream, the most important verse, I can say, of Bhagavad Gita. It's so important that Krishna has repeated only this verse twice in Bhagavad Gita. Once in 9th chapter, I think it's 9.34, and now 18th chapter, 18.65. And the first 2 lines are the same, but the essence of the shloka, both the shlokas are the same. So we had this for recitation. Is there, I think we missed this time. So I would like everybody to read this. I will start. I don't want to miss the chance to have such a nectarian verse as well. So I'll start with it, and we'll go, turn-wise, each of you reciting this. Yeah. So, Manmana bhava madbhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru mame vaishyasi satyam te pratijani priyosi me. So maybe I'll call out. So Biswa Prabhuji.
Yes, Mataji. Sure. Manmana bhavo madbhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru mam ebishyashi satyam te pratijani priyosmi. Thank you. Hello.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yeah, Mataji. Manmana bhava madbhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru mame vaishyasi satyam te pratijane priyosmi. Yes, thank you, Mataji.
Thank you. Thank you. So, Kavya Mataji.
Yes. Manmana bhava madbhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru mam evaishyasi satyam te pratijane priyosi me. Hare
Thank you.
Krishna.
Thank you. Rama Prabha Mataji.
Manmana bhava madbhakto madhyaji mam namaskuro mam ye vaishyashi satyam te pratijane priyosi me.
Thank you. Reshma Mataji.
Manmana bhava madbhakto madhyaji mam namaskuro mam evaishyasi satyam te pratijane priyosi me.
Thank you. Thank you. So always think of me. Manmana bhava. Always think of me. Mad bhakto. Become my devotee. How many times he has repeated mad, mam means me, right? Madhyaji, right? Madhyaji means offer your, worship me. Yeah. Madhyaji is worship me. Mam namaskuru. Pay obeisance to me. Right? Mam evaishyasi satyam te pratijane priyosimi. Right? So mam evaishyasi satyam te is certainly, evaishyasi means certainly you will come back. And satyam te, he's truly saying this. Pratijane is he's promising this. Pratijane priyosimi. So he's promising that you will come back. That's what Krishna is doing. Right? So beautiful verse, and it's it gives us the essence as how we should carry our devotion to Krishna. Always think of me, become my devotee, worship me, and pay obeisance to me. Right? So these are the 4 steps he's thinking. Always think of me. And how can we do this? by performing the 9 process of devotional service. We learned that, right, from Bhagavatam, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, right? So those 9 process of devotional service, we start with Shravanam, that is hearing. You know? So everything we learned in 7th chapter also in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, it starts with hearing. The process starts with hearing. How do we get into bhakti? By hearing about Krishna from somebody. Right? Hearing is the first thing. If there is something going on as a bhajan, if there is something going on in your television, first thing is, we hear. It starts, our journey starts with hearing. And Krishna states only by these simple steps. These actually sound so simple if we think about it, if we look about it. But actually bhakti is so simple. And that's why it's beautiful. And we can just go back to him. That's what he's showing. He's showing the simplicity, how simple it is to please the most supreme person. It's so simple. And ultimately Krishna is saying surrender to him, right? And this chapter actually summarizes that, and this is highlighted by Krishna in next verse, that, just surrender. The next verse talks about, what the whole instruction of Bhagavad Gita together, ultimately is to surrender Krishna. And that is also a very famous, but also very important verse, which is the conclusion of Bhagavad Gita, we call it as, which is surrender to Krishna. Again, Sarva Dharman Parityajya Mam Ekam Sharanam Vraja Aham Tvam Sarva Papebhyo Mokshashyami Ma Shuchaha. So should we again go through this verse again with each one of you? We'll start with Bispa Prabhuji.
Sure. Okay. Sarva dharman parityajya mam ekam saranam raja aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshashyami ma suchaha.
Thank you. Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Sarva dharman parityajaya mam ekam sharanam vraja aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshasmi ma suchaha.
Thank you. Kavya Mataji. We can't hear you, Kavya Mataji. I see you have unmuted yourself.
Oh, sorry, can you hear me?
Okay. Yes, now, yes.
Okay. Sarva dharmam parityajya mam ekam saranam vraja aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshashyami ma sucha.
Rama Prabha Mataji. Thank you, Kavya Mataji.
सर्वधर्मान् परित्यज्य मामेकं शरणं व्रज अहं त्वां सर्वपापेभ्यो मोक्षयिष्यामि मा शुचः.
Thank you. Reshma Mataji.
सर्वधर्मान् परित्यज्य मामेकं शरणं व्रज अहं त्वां सर्वपापेभ्यो मोक्षयिष्यामि मा शुचः.
Thank you. So again, what is Krishna saying? Abandon all varieties of religion. And just what? Just surrender to me. Just surrender. I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. And then he says, do not fear. See, Krishna might have talked about different yogas in Bhagavad Gita, but he's saying, Arjuna, that forget everything what I have told you. Just surrender. That is the verse. That is the, this thing, essence, right? We might have so many, when he's saying abandon all varieties of religion, it is not about, the religions we have in our mind. It's not that. He's talking about, when we are talking about dharma, means we have different kind of dharmas, right? Like, putra dharma, pita dharma, right? A dharma towards society, dharma towards our forefathers, dharma as a wife, dharma as a husband. There are so many dharmas we have to, So Krishna is saying, don't worry about all that. Just surrender to me. And by that, he will free us from all the sins. Just surrender to Krishna and everything will go in that autopilot mode. That's what we say, everything will go. Right? Because see, by bhakti, you become a good person. The qualities we learned about, those qualities we learned in different chapters, in 12th chapter, in 16th chapter, in 13th chapter, qualities of devotees. If you think about even that how would you like to be as a person, how would you want maybe your child to be as a person, pick up any quality and see those qualities of a devotee. You will find all of those in a devotee. You eventually you shape into a very good person, into an extraordinary person. So Krishna is saying, don't worry about all, just surrender to me. And just by our surrender, he will not only take care of the rest, but he will also, free us all from all the sins. That bad part, that's what we learned, right? That by surrender, that bad part goes away. And Krishna actually mercifully lets it go, right? So even if we are sinful, if we surrender, then Krishna will take care of the rest. It's like that Mrigahari story. I don't know if any of you know. It's again Bhagavatam story where Mrigahari was a hunter, and he used to kill ruthlessly animals, ruthlessly. And once Narad Muni came across, and he saw, and actually he was so ruthless that he would half kill the animal, and he would enjoy the suffering the animal undergoes, while dying, because he could half kill, and that phases where the animal could undergo, he used to get pleasure from that. He was so ruthless. And once Narad Muni, he met Narad Muni, came across him, and through Narad Muni's, association, he became, in due course, so pious that he didn't even want to kill an ant. While walking also, he would walk here because he didn't want to even hurt an ant. So Krishna says, just surrender. Like, and then, like he surrendered, to his spiritual master, Narayana. So just surrender and Krishna will take care, Krishna and Krishna's representatives will just take care to relieve us from all the reactions, all that sinful reactions. Now, because we are talking about surrender, next slide we'll talk about, we have gone through this Sharanagati, steps before, that what is the process of surrender. This is from Hari Bhakti Vilas, the Padma Puran scripture. As how do you surrender? We learned this several times. I think I quote this also, that how should we perform bhakti? Anukulasya sankalpa. Anukul means whatever is favorable for bhakti. We have to do this. And pratikulasya varjan. What is pratikul? What is not favoring us towards bhakti? Whatever is not favorable for us to perform our bhakti, reject them, avoid them. Yeah. So, and then what happens? Confidence in Krishna's protection. That's what Krishna did. That faith is so important, right? And then, to have firm faith that Krishna is only maintainer, no need of thinking how to keep body and soul together, right? That determination from us, which you mentioned, that faith, steady faith. Because see, the whole process starts with Shraddha Sadhusam, right? Shraddha is the first step. And that Shraddha is different to Nishtha, right? We have the phases like it starts with Shraddha, then Sadhusam, association, and then Bhajana Kriya, or chanting. And then by doing this, association and Sadhusam, there will be Anartha Nivritti, right? All Anarthas will start going away. And by that, Nishtha is established. Nishtha is steady, firm faith, that Krishna is everything. Okay. And then Atma Nikshepa, so fully surrender into Krishna, and then think slowly and humbly and meek. So humility is the key quality. Okay, this is the Sharanagati, surrender, process of surrender. So with that, we step into the last section, which will be, I think, pretty much quick in a way. So 67th verse, Krishna highlights who should not be given teachings of Gita. He's saying. So, Atapaks Yeah, just a minute. Yeah, atapaskaya. Yeah, not austere and sense control. Someone who is not austere, who does not have sense control. Abhaktaya. Yeah, so someone who is not doing devotion. Yeah, without true devotion. Yeah. Ashushrush shave. Yeah, unwilling to hear or not engaged in obedient service. And abhisuyad. Abhisuyati, envious to. So this confidential knowledge may never be explained to those who are not austere, who are not devoted to Krishna, who are not engaged in the devotional service. And the key thing is, why are all these above? Because they are, why are people performing the above? Because they are envious of Krishna. Why should I, put somebody above me? That's the mentality. It's me, I'm doing everything. So it's mainly envious. Quite a lot of people are envious, about the position of Krishna. So being non-envious is one of the key characters, what we learned before. Okay. So further, yes, benefits of Bhagavad Gita. So how beautifully Krishna is concluding. He came until pure bhakti. After that, he told us who should not be given this knowledge. Now he is telling what are the benefits of this. And benefits in what nice way. It's like he first says, what are the benefits for somebody who is teaching this knowledge? Then benefits of people who are studying this, and benefits of people who are hearing this. So categorizing into three. Yeah. So teaching, one who teaches. Maybe one of you can read. I don't know where I stopped, but maybe Ramaprabha Mataji, can you read?
Yes, Mataji. Benefits of Bhagavad Gita teaching. Number 1, attains pure devotional service unto me. Second, comes back to me without a doubt. Third, becomes most dear to me. There is no servant in this world more dear to me than him, nor there ever be one more. Sorry, Mataji, I'll read this one more time.
Yeah, can we just take a break here? We'll continue with the study. Let me explain teaching. So Krishna is saying, for one who teaches this knowledge, Krishna is guaranteeing that that person will achieve that pure devotion service and will go back to Krishna without it, right? And Krishna says he's most dear to me, right? There is no servant in this world more dear to someone who spreads us. So there are so many, why do we do this distribution? Gita courses, right? So each one of us are benefited highly. Anything related to Buddha, anything related to Krishna, but the more we spread this, everybody will be benefited, and we can be eligible. It's a selfish motive, right? We also want to be benefited, and Krishna is highlighting that in Bhagavad Gita, right? He has just spoken 700 verses. In that, if he is putting this, then it is such a motivation for us, right, to spread across, right? So yeah, Ramaprabha Mataji's second one, studying.
I declare that he who studies this sacred conversation of ours worships me by his intelligence or sacrifice of knowledge.
Right. So studying, what is studying? See, we have to understand there is a difference between reading and studying. And we are talking about studying here, Krishna is saying, right? Studying is, scrutinizingly, going through the scriptures, going through the verses of Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, that, and, even if, we should study using, and how do we study? Using our intelligence, right? To understand, to get that spiritual knowledge, and that in itself is a sacrifice. We learned that studying of scriptures, it's called as a swadhyaya yagna, types of yagna. And Krishna mentioned this in Bhagavad Gita, right? Swadhyaya is scrutinizingly studying the scriptures. So we are doing the yagna for Krishna, to understand Krishna, right? So that way our intelligence gets purified, and that spiritual knowledge of us. So it is very important to study scriptures and Bhagavad Gita. And the last, hearing,
and one who listens with faith without envy, number 1, becomes free from sinful reactions. Number 2, attains to the auspicious planets where the pious dwell.
right? See, it's a win-win situation everywhere. So even hearing, we are all hearing, right? And that's what I was telling you. It's like, it's so good that, we are all together in this journey, ending today, 18th chapter. And, you all, you are taking out your time, during the weekend, which is not easy, right? To really understand, to hear Bhagavad Gita, right? And one who listens, and that's what he's saying, that he becomes free from all sinful reactions, and we attain the auspicious planets. So that's what Krishna is saying. So I would strongly recommend, now that we are ending Bhagavad Gita, today, for each one of you, you should try to preach Bhagavad Gita to others, and we'll be able to preach when we study it, scrutinizing. So now that we have a kind of basic understanding, we should try to drill down, and that's what we should do during these revision sessions. Please go through the purports, study them, and then you will be able to, even in a small pool, it may be just your family, your kids, your friends, preach them, Bhagavad Gita. And it should, believe me, this is the best help you can help somebody. And it is like the course says, it's like a matchless gift. Nobody can match this gift given to somebody, right? So do please, preach from your end, because it benefits you and it will benefit others. And actually it benefits us the most, because when you, like you all also shared your experience, when you prepare for a session for yourself, right? You realize that, of course, it's with each one of us. I take time to prepare these sessions. So the most benefited person is ourselves, nobody else, right? So do it for ourselves. Okay. So, okay. So further, Krishna talks about, So now will come that conclusion by Arjuna. So this is Arjuna now, after Krishna ends talking to him, from the previous verse, where he talks about the benefit of Bhagavad Gita, and that's it. He stops there. Arjuna accepted Krishna as supreme even before, right? Way ahead in the chapter, and he is now ready to follow Krishna's instructions and fight. So Arjuna is sharing the realizations, right? So 73rd verse, Arjuna says, "My illusion is now dispelled. Moha, illusion, is all gone. I have regained my memory, and all this happened by your mercy, O infallible Lord." Look at Arjuna. When he started, he was like calling Krishna with all friendly names. And in the end, now he's saying, Achyuta again, "Oh, my infallible Lord, this, I could only realize this because of your mercy." And now in the third line, he says, "I am now firm and free from all doubts. Yeah, I'm ready to follow your instructions." So this is Arjuna's conclusion, right? That you are the supreme. I'm just going to follow your instructions. All the doubts are erased, they are solved. So similarly, after reading Bhagavad Gita, we should have that firm determination that we'll try our best to follow the instructions given by Krishna in the book. Because see, just hearing is better than not doing anything. Of course, hearing Gita. But hearing and then studying Gita is a level up high. It's even more better than hearing. And just studying won't help, unless you don't practically apply it in your daily life. That practical application is most necessary. If we are saying we have to follow Krishna's instructions, then it is also practically applying those. That is how we follow, just not by knowing, but by showing through our example, right? So that is the key. So this is Arjuna's conclusion. And next, now the last verses are spoken by Sanjaya. And Sanjaya, if you remember, he was given the power by Vyasadeva. He was Vyasadev's disciple, and he was given the power that sitting with Dhritarashtra, he could see what was happening in Kurukshetra. and how the first verse started with Dhritarashtra Vacha, right? Dhritarashtra was asking Sanjay, can you tell me what is happening? What are the Pandavas and Kauravas, they are doing, please. So now Sanjay is concluding to Dhritarashtra. Yeah. The conversation of two great souls, Krishna and Arjuna, is so wonderful message that my hair is standing on end. Sanjay is saying. By the mercy of Vyasdev, I have heard the most confidential talks on Bhakti Yoga directly from the master of all mysticism, Krishna. Yeah? Yogeshwarat Krishna, right? Who was speaking personally to Arjuna. Right? I repeatedly recall this wonderful sacred conversation between Krishna and Arjuna. Take pleasure, being thrilled at every moment. He's saying, I repeatedly recall. Of course, we can imagine if he could hear, he was so fortunate to hear it directly from the lotus mouth of Krishna. So this reaction is like, sometimes, what you feel, it's much beyond to what can be written and showed that how you felt, right? So just by these verses, we can at least imagine tiny bit how much Sanjaya must have felt the ecstasy, right? They may not fully, justify our thought, but it at least gives us the, essence as what Sanjaya is undergoing. And the last, as I remember Krishna's wonderful form, I'm struck with wonder more and more. I rejoice repeatedly, and my hair stands on end again and again. Right? So that kind of a feeling which, Sanjaya is undergoing. Amazing. And we end with the last verse, again, very important verse. And Reshma Mataji, can you read this?
Yes, Mataji. Yatra Yogeshwaraha Krishno, Yatra Partho Dhanurdaraha, Tatra Shri Vijayo, Bhutir Dhruva, Nitir Matir Mama. Wherever there is Krishna, the master of all mystics, and wherever there is Arjuna, the supreme archer, there will also certainly be opulence, victory, extraordinary power, and morality. That is my opinion. Bhagavad Gita 18.78. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you. What else we need? So Sanjay is saying that this is Sanjaya's conclusion. We saw what was Arjuna's conclusion. This is Sanjaya's conclusion, is given in this verse. So Sanjaya is declaring to Dhritarashtra, sitting there. The war hasn't started, but he is declaring in front of Dhritarashtra that his sons will not win. The the verdict is already given in Bhagavad Gita, before even the war started, right? Because he's saying wherever we see this combination of Krishna and devotee Arjuna, there will be what? Victory, opulence, power, morality. Everything, all in one package, And what else we would need? This is all. If you think of anything, you can put it one of these category for sure. Anything. So Bhagavad Gita started with Dhritarashtra's question and a kind of confidence that his sons might win. But now Sanjay is concluding to take that thought process away, that indeed, Pandavas are going to win because Krishna is on their side, right? That's the conclusion of Gita. Okay, so with that, we conclude today's session. Let me